Hey, this is John Bohlinger with Premier Guitar. We're in Corona, California at the Gretsch American Factory, and I'm with Chad Henrichsen, who's one of the master builders. Chad, hey man, thanks for having us.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, so it's interesting, this shop is not a particularly big shop. It's kind of what I imagine the Gretsch shop looked like in the 50s. Like,
yeah,
pretty close to this.
Yeah, it's very small scale. We get a lot done in a small amount of space, but this is where it all happens.
And it all starts kind of right here, right?
This is it, yeah.
Look, why don't you kind of take us through what you all are doing here?
So basically, this is where all the magic starts. We've got our mahogany body blanks for duo jets and penguins. These are, we've got spruce tops here, maple tops, got a little spalted maple guy hiding in there.
Wow.
All of our mahogany neck blanks down at your feet, maple neck blanks over here, ebony fingerboards, you name it. It all comes in just like this. And we use all the machines you can see around the shop.
How do you work out what you're building?
It's actually a combination of both. So every order that comes in has to go through a specific dealer, but a lot of those orders are from artists or just, people who, they see what we can make and they're like, well, I want a pink sparkle and gold binding or whatever the case is, as long as we can do it, it's not a problem. We'll make it happen.
Okay, so Chad, we're trying to get from here to here.
Absolutely.
So what is the process?
So the first process would be to take these laminates, glue them up, and we put them in a press. So the press has this mold built into the press. You let it sit in there for specified amount of time. And
now, is it steam, water, or is it just pressure?
It's heat and pressure.
Okay. So once you've got that, once you've got the top and the back, what's next?
So we have a press that deals with the sides, whether it's curly, a solid side or a laminate side like this one. And once we get the sides put together, then we cap it with the top and the back, which are actually the same shape. And once we get that box closed, it's off to the races.
And when you're bending this, is it a similar thing, just it's heat and pressure?
That's exactly it, yeah.
Okay, wow. All right, and show me what this big machine here is doing.
So this is our copy carver. So on the left side here, and that's how we do all of our spruce tops. All of our spruce tops are completely solid. So we have various forms. This one is actually for our double neck. But we have, duo jet, Falcon 6120s. We have the negative side here, and then we also have the positive side. So what happens is this wheel, if I can pull this up, you might see a little better. That wheel rides along the form, and this big old cutter head that you wouldn't want to get your fingers in, that thing, comes on the other side, and we'll just have a blank stock, a blank top or back, and it just rides and cuts that exact form into the other side.
Just like a big chunk of spruce or whatever.
Yeah.
And wow, and it's that much, so it's cutting one chunk of wood down to that.
Yeah. And we can, obviously we can set our depth of cut, through various adjustments here. We wouldn't want to take the whole thing at once. Spruce itself wouldn't like that very much, but.
Now, are these older machines that have been using for quite a while?
This has been up here as long as I've been up here, and even some of the master builders downstairs who've been here a long time, they say they remember this from years and years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
But if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, right. Well, and you can't get more authentic than that.
Right.
Machine.
This is probably how they did it, a long time ago.
Right. Okay, so now we're in your neck world, and this is really this is your place.
Yep.
How do you get from this to a neck? That seems like a long ways away.
It's actually a little shorter than you'd think, but so the first thing I would do is I would take it over to the joiner. I'd get a real nice flat straight edge on there. Then I would take it to the planer. I would set the dimensions. We make different styles of necks, and some of the necks have different dimensions. And so whatever I was working on, I'd get it set to those dimensions. Then I would we have some side templates that we use for, whether it's a Falcon or a Penguin or a duo jet or whatever it is. Then I would rough bandsaw out the rough shape on this. Once I get that rough shape, then I would take it to the shaper. And the shaper is really what gets you to this point here.
Now, so is this one piece of wood? I mean, is this literally like that wasn't attached on, or is it?
Right, so these are the wings. So depending on the width of the headstock,
Yeah.
sometimes our stock isn't wide enough, so we add wings to it. Now this neck in particular is set up like we would do a 6120 or a Falcon.
Okay.
It's actually it's made from a single piece of maple. This is roasted maple, but what we do is we cut it in half and flip it around, and then we add this veneer in the middle. It's kind of hard to see. This is a mahogany veneer, but
Sure.
maybe this example is a little bit easier.
Oh, okay.
So
Sure.
So this is what, pretty much almost all of our hollow bodies are made from. All maple necks are made this way. Mahogany necks are all one-piece necks.
Wow.
Maybe some wings if it's a penguin. Penguin has that giant headstock on
Yeah.
it, so we'd need to add wings for that. But
Okay.
duo jets, one-piece neck, yeah.
Wow. So that's why you start with such a big chunk.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so when Gretsch necks are done, I mean, they're all old school cut out like that.
Yeah, every single one.
Like they've been doing it since the beginning.
Yep. Just billets of mahogany.
Wow, that seems very labor intensive.
It's actually not too bad. If you have the right jigs, you have the right setup, the right machine, it actually goes pretty quickly. As long as you know what you're doing. You're not sticking your fingers into things. And
Yeah. Yeah. As guitar players, you don't.
I still have all mine, but
Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's great.
all right. So once we hit the shaper, get the neck to this, basic spot. The truss rod comes next. Install the truss rods, filler strips. After that, neck extension also. This one doesn't have one yet, but that'll come later. The head caps go on next. So, depending on the model, the year, whatever they want, if they have custom inlays, we do that too. Head cap goes on here. We'll trim the edge here so we have a nice, nice straight edge. Then it gets routed. We route the perimeter. So these are what we use for our perimeter routes. This specific ones for a penguin. The taper's already set. Headstock shape is all set. It really makes quick work. We don't have to do a lot of hand sanding. A little bit, but not too much. Once that is done, binding comes next. You can see we've got our classic penguin with some gold sparkle binding here. I just glued up this morning.
Oh, wow. Great.
Here's a duo jet with our, classic white binding here.
You guys, Gretsch really leans into the binding.
We love the binding. We love many, many layers of it.
Yeah.
It just makes it look cool.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's an iconic look.
Yeah. So once all the binding is done, everything's cleaned up, everything looks great, then I'll move to the fingerboards.
Okay.
So we'll go ahead and So we'll pretend this has binding on it.
Okay.
And so depending on the binding that's on the headstock and the neck, I may need to trim down that board a little bit, just make everything fit to whatever specified nut width that the customer has requested. So once we get the fingerboard on, level it out, frets come next, then binding, side dots, all that stuff. We are now at a spot where we can shape the neck, do the final shape of that neck. And so we do all that by hand. We got a couple of machines over there, pillow sander, big deadhead sander that'll, remove a ton of material real quick. And we just use, little templates. We have a bunch of different shapes, V's, U, C, you name it. We just shape it all down by hand, make sure it's good.
So there's got to be just a little variation in every neck with that much handwork.
Very minor, but there is going to be some.
Sure.
Yeah, we're all doing it by hand. There's no machine taking this down for us. It's human eyes with templates and making sure everything is as close as we can get it. Yeah.
That's cool.
And a lot of it is feel too.
Are there, say, some orders where they're very specific and they want something a little bit different and you just have to shave it by hand to their requirements?
Yeah, we've actually had artists come in and bring their own guitars, and we have traced the back of their neck to get that same back shape that they want. I have an order this month where they're requesting a specific taper. It runs the gamut of whatever you can request. And as long as it's physically possible, we don't have a problem. We got to do the same process anyway. I'd rather give the customer what they want.
Sure. Okay, so we got a body, we got a neck. What's next?
Joining them up.
Okay. Okay, so now we're with another master builder, Gonzalo, and he's got a build here, and we're gonna put the neck on the body, right?
Yep, that's where we're at.
Okay, kind of talk us through this a little bit. What do we have going on?
So this neck, it's already been final shaped. It's all ready to go. So what we would do, we have to make sure that our tolerances are good, nice tight fit. Gonzalo can walk us through. Regardless if it's this is our tenon, this would be a dovetail. It's just a different type. They both do the same thing. They hold the neck on.
Okay, so he's going to work that neck into that body, and it's glued in, right? I mean,
Yep.
It's a solid fit.
Yes.
It looks like it almost can hold in on its own. It's such a tight squeeze.
That's what we want.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a bunch of other things we need to take into account as well. Neck angles, what kind of bridge they want.
Sure.
Make sure everything lines up correctly. Your center lines are good. There's a lot of little things involved in that, but once we get all that taken care of, then sit it in there, glue it up, and it's ready to go off to paint.
Okay. And then after paint, final assembly, and
Yep.
and out the door.
To a happy customer.
And what is this model?
This is a Billy Bow,
Oh,
a
right.
6199 Billy Bow.
Okay, so Billy Gibbons and Bo Diddley.
Yeah. So we make a couple different variations of it. Some people, they like the Falcon headstock on it. We make a version called a caddy bow that actually has these profiles cut into the corners, which is actually really cool. They've been fairly popular lately. Been making quite a few of them.
Wow. What a great spaceship of a guitar. That's great.
It's all Gretsch.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that amazing? And your company this year, I think this is your 140th year.
140th coming up. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that since the 50s, it's really had this kind of futuristic aesthetic to
Yeah.
it, like Jetsons,
Yeah. Yeah. If you look at the Astrojet
Yeah,
that they made
right.
years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got Jetsons written all over it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is literally a Jetsons reference.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting how you've always been this kind of futuristic company.
Yeah.
Even
But at the same time, you look at a White Falcon,
yeah.
and it's just, tested over time.
Oh yeah, what a Cadillac.
It's
man.
priceless. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so up here in Gretsch, we take a lot of pride in our binding. And so you can see with this, it's got tortoiseshell binding. It looks like it has 4 or 5 layers of purfling behind it.
Wow.
You can see this double neck here, double bound, gold sparkle binding. It's a showstopper.
Yeah. So is that 3 layers or? Gosh, I guess it's.
It gives the impression of 3. The gold and the white are actually pre-laminated,
Oh, okay.
and then it has a black purfling behind it.
Wow.
Makes our job a little easier.
Sure.
But yeah, binding is something we take very seriously, and Gonzalo here is working on something here, and we'll show you that real quick. So right now he's installing the tortoiseshell binding, and so there's actually 2 purflings that go behind that. It looks like he's got a 40 thousandths black, a little thin white, and then the tortoiseshell on the outside.
God,
And
even the F holes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's actually a rare request that somebody didn't want the F-holes bound.
Oh, so great. So the F holes, obviously you can't have the top on the guitar. You have to have access from both sides.
Right. Yeah. So before the top gets glued onto the sides, he would take care of the binding on the F-holes prior to that. Make sure everything's nice and smooth and sanded flat. I still, when I watch him do it, I don't know about that, innit?
Yeah.
He's been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in this building that come to him for his expertise.
Oh, I think he said it's about 45 minutes. So,
Mhm.
so heating it to make that bend.
Yep. With tortoiseshell, you have to be very careful about that.
Right. Flammable.
Yeah.
So all this material is nitro based.
Not all of it. The sparkle bindings are not. The tortoiseshell and our white and our perloid is. And so it just takes a little bit of time to, understand which bindings to be careful with. And
Right. I mean, that's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
You're adding heat to something flammable.
yep,
I bet there's some fire hazards.
yeah. As long as you're quick on your feet, it's not a problem. But it is possible.
Yeah.
That's why there's only a few of us in the building that work with that kind of stuff.
Sure.
All right, so here we have Lon. He's putting together this 12-string country gentleman, and doesn't look like he's got the mutes in there yet. Those are always fun. There you go. Yep. So once it gets to this stage, paint, buff, everything is done, everything is finalized, all the parts go on. We get tuners, bridge, electronics, tailpieces, everything gets assembled. And then we get one of these.
Right. That was on the bench when we walked in, and now
Yeah.
it's on the next. Wow.
Yep.
What is that model?
So here we have a 3 pickup Penguin loaded with Supertrons, gold sparkle binding
In Paisley.
in black paisley. Yeah, with a cat's eye F-hole.
Wow.
Yeah. These have been very, very popular. People really like this paisley.
Well, and isn't it amazing? The Penguin, initially, there were just a handful of them made,
Yeah.
right? And then they became like the most sought after Gretsch, and now you guys are leaning into that, right?
Yeah, I don't want to say we make more than anything else, but it's a fair amount of what we build, our Penguins. But yeah, these are great guitars. I love these.
Yeah, how amazing to see in this fairly small building, you take it from a chunk of wood to that. Really impressive.
Yeah, thank you. That's one of the things I really like to show people when they come and visit the shop is, what we can do with such few machines and just the talent that all these guys have. It's really incredible that we can produce these amazing instruments every single day.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
I can't wait to see what happens through the next 140 years.
Stay tuned for a treat.
Yeah.